It was a reunion of sorts for Jesse Lindeman. He had been asked to come demonstrate his namesake tractor and tell the story of how he came to design and build a crawler for John Deere.
The 30s came along and there was the John Deere tractor, the two-cylinder tractor would burn a low fuel that we called stove tops. It was about 6 cents a gallon and no tax in those days. And we thought that our wheel tractors at that time would not go up the hills in the orchard shoot. Our chief business was the orchard business, tractoring in the orchard. And I thought how we had been selling a tractor that was built in Cleveland, Ohio, the Cletrac, and I say the Depression had come along and the sales were very few, and we thought if we had people express the fact that if it was a crawler tractor, they'd like to have one because of the low fuel consumption and the nice size. And that caused us to develop the first one in I think Kong and Orchard used the first one in 1941 for the season.
The Lindeman name is best known throughout the country for the B.O. crawler, built in the 1940s. But here in the Pacific Northwest, Lindeman is known for a variety of agricultural equipment, which modernized the region's farming industry. Jesse Lindeman was born and reared in the farmlands of Iowa. At age 21, he migrated west, arriving in Washington State's Yakima Valley in 1920. His new surroundings held a completely different type of landscape and agriculture than what he was familiar with in the Midwest. In time, 3 younger brothers would join him here. While working at a lumber company, Jesse and brother Harry designed a special disc harrow that would work in and around rows of fruit trees. This led, in 1923, to the brothers investing their life savings of $1,600 in their own retail implement business. The Lindeman Power Equipment Company was a small shop which forged, machined, and assembled the new extension disc harrow. In 1925, the company expanded, and Ross Lindeman joined the business. That same year, they earned the franchise for the Cleveland tractor company, Cletrac. But their income was mostly derived from the design and sales of specially designed power equipment. In 1928, they began marketing an orchard sprayer, converted to allow operation from the power takeoff of the tractor. Further expansion meant moving to the site which would eventually house the large manufacturing plant of wartime years. 1930 was at once both the high and low years of the Lindeman Company to this time. The Depression was taking effect on the economy. Its impact on agriculture is legendary. A great personal loss occurred with the death of Harry Lindeman. The company reorganized and incorporated. In addition to their own products, they became the agent for a number of large manufacturers. One of these manufacturers was the John Deere Company of Moline, Illinois. The business relationship with John Deere was to be the turning point of the Lindeman story. The Lindeman brothers built a fine market for John Deere tractors in the Yakima Valley, but once again, the unique demands of orcharding put their inventive genius to work. They first took a set of used tracks and applied them to the John Deere Model D. The D was a popular tractor, in part because it ran on cheap oil and could be purchased at a reasonable price. 3 of the D models were converted to crawlers, and one of them went to John Deere corporate headquarters for a demonstration before skeptical officials. The Lindemann conversion made believers out of them. When the Model GP came out, Lindemann made a similar conversion, eventually making just over 24 of this type. It's not known if any of the original 3 Model Ds still exist, and of the 24 or so Model GPs, perhaps half a dozen are still in existence. Not surprisingly, they command exorbitant prices by collectors. But it was the 3rd model, the B, which would ensure Lindemann's place in history. When John Deere introduced the Model B in 1935, Lindemann was asked to outfit it with tracks. This was done most successfully, and by the outbreak of World War II, they were in full production. Engines and transmissions were shipped by flat car to the Lindemann plant in Yakima. Here, the final drive, steering clutches, track assemblies, and other attachments were installed. Combining extra horsepower and tracks for difficult terrain, the easily handled crawler was ideal for orchard operations and many other applications, such as the wide track version, made for row crops.
Potato Man wanted a small tractor like that, and we sold a few of them, but it was an adjustable track, the square bars that were used for the frame between the track frame and the tractor. We mounted that on square bars that was clamped on, and the sprockets were on a sliding shaft so we could move everything exactly out for the row crop with. And that's the reason we did that. And on top of that, just doing that, and then we just put a short shaft in for the average person. We could put any length square shaft in there and a longer sprocket shaft and get about any width within reason that the customer wanted.
The BO crawler, the O indicating orchard, was truly a success story. Not to mention, it was a really good-looking tractor. All of which makes for the high-value collector's place on them today.
It took off largely because it was just a good-looking tractor, which was the John Deere phase of it. It looked actually as if John Deere had deliberately built the chassis, as we call it, to take and crawl tracks. No other tractor I see was that could have been adapted to, but John Deere didn't build it for crawlers, but it just turned out it just worked beautifully for him. Everything just clicked. And even today, you go someplace and want to buy what these collectors do, the fellows will know I'm still using them. That's 50 years ago.
What most people don't know, and for good reason, is that a military version was designed as well. Lured on by the strong prospect of supplying the war effort, Lindemann took one of the first model BOs and converted it into a prototype Army crawler. An impressive demonstration was filmed. This rare footage shows the action. Thickly forested areas of the Pacific Northwest made for ideal proving grounds. It would have been ideal for transport by plane into the jungles of the Pacific, and particularly suited for airfield construction. Although smaller and much lighter in weight than competitors, the BO crawler didn't sacrifice any power or traction. A powerful winch was also demonstrated to show further flexibility. A variety of tasks were performed before the camera. It even sported a specifically designed blade, which could be formed into a V blade, an angle blade, or a straight blade simply by the pull of a pin. Despite these features, production of the military version was not to happen. The much larger and well-established Caterpillar Company won out over Lindemann to obtain the lucrative Army contract. Despite the setback, the Lindemann Power and Equipment Company was in its heyday on the home front, and the youngest brother, Joe, joined the firm. Because John Deere factories were converted to building tanks for the war effort, it was left to the smaller Lindemann plant to help fill the need for farm implements. Lindemann was able to get priority approval from the War Production Board. By now, the Lindemann plant spread out over 10 acres and, at its peak, employed 426 workers. In addition to tractor manufacturing, Lindemann shops and foundries were commissioned to assist the war effort by providing crucial items for the shipbuilding industries on the coast. Old ways on the farm were to change forever. America's industrial might had won the war. Now, it was expected to modernize agriculture, and this meant an even greater need for tractors. At war's end, John Deere was back in farm production, and they made Jesse a sweet offer. A healthy price was to go toward the purchase of the physical plant, even more to him for his knowledge. Jesse is shown here seated on the first Model MC, the successor to the BO. It was a lucrative deal for the Lindemans, made even more so by the fact that their valued employees would remain at work. High employee morale was taken seriously at the Lindemann plant. Merit plans guaranteeing pay increases and promotions were in effect. In addition, workers benefited from numerous other programs the company offered, such as sports teams, contests, and the Gun Club, which boasted over 100 members. Years later, former employees hold fond memories of working for the Lindemann boys.
Jess, he was engineer, designer. He was head of the whole thing, but there was a research department that he worked very close with, and Jess, he'd come out with engineers that draw out the blueprints, and then actually, you see things a little different when you actually see the casting in the pattern in wood, so you can see what it'll visualize. And Jess, he'd come out and he'd say, well, let's build this a little stronger, or he could see it. He'd work things out that way. I mean, one of his favorite expressions, or I wouldn't say favorite, but it caught me, is he'd look at it and he says, well, let's build this up a little bit. He says, we want this hell for stout was the expression he used. He wanted it done right. So it was fun working for him. They had a Ford shop, and they had assembly, and they had a paint and pattern shop. Gee, it was big, and they made discs and land levelers. And land levelers and discs were a big thing. The crawler tractors were brought in from either Waterloo or Dubuque, I think. I'm not sure which. Dubuque, I believe it was. And they shipped the chassis in, or just the motor. And then we built the chassis, all the undercarriage. And it was a big machine shop, Ford shop, paint shop, machine shop, tool room, pattern makers. It was a big organization.
The longer I stayed, the more involved I got with the Lindemann boys. And there was Joe, who more or less was a plant foreman, so to speak. And Ross, another brother, he was in charge of the machine shop. Jess was in the office, or engineering office, and this Harry Lindeman died evidently before my time came.
The Lindemans marked the changeover by giving employees a commemorative booklet detailing the company's history. Along with it was this letter of gratitude.
Well, this was dated December 20th, 1946, which was just before John Deere took over. It says, to all employees, all of us who have worked together to develop this company from just an idea in 1923 to the organization that as it is today, may take, I think, humble but justifiable pride in its growth. Keeping our faith in the future and maintaining our enthusiasm were not easy at times. Discouraging problems buffeted us, disappointments were frequent, but through it all, working as a team, progress was made. Today, we are entering a new phase of activity, one that holds, I believe, a great opportunity not only for us as a company, but for each of you as individuals. This new development is one that allows us to look forward with confidence. But lest we forget our years of work together that have made this new era possible, I would like you to have, as a memento of the past, this pictorial review of our company. It's that booklet. And I guess each one of the employees got one of those. Just right around Christmas time, the Lindeman foundry burned down, which Lindeman, with John Deere, had already bought. They took over 1st of January, 1947.
Just days before John Deere was to take over, a fire destroyed the plant's foundry. John Deere chose not to rebuild this part of the factory. John Deere took over tractor production at the Yakima plant and continued to run it until 1954. Lindeman's crawler conversion is credited with putting John Deere in the industrial crawler business, used in construction and logging. Shown here is the post-war model MC. By now, the Lindemans had opened the Northwest Equipment Company, where they would continue building a variety of farm implements. When Brother Ross died in 1948, Jesse and Joe Lindeman were left to maintain operations. After John Deere's pullout in 1954, the two devoted full-time to Northwest Equipment. As we saw with the military prototype of the BO crawler, considerable attention was given to the film documentation of Lindeman equipment. As a byproduct, what has been left is a powerful visual legacy of our agricultural heritage. Since the original disc harrow, which was the genesis of Lindeman's success, the list of farm products has been long. A two-way plow was designed for the Ford tractor with a three-point hitch and for use in plowing fields where year-round irrigation by ditches is required. Yakima is a world leader in hops production, and Lindeman contracted with the Ties and Miller Company of Sacramento, California, to manufacture for them portable hop picking machines. Shown here is a B.O. crawler pulling the portable hop picker. In 1942, Lindeman was approached by the Utah-Idaho Sugar Company of Salt Lake City to build a mechanical beet loader. Production was not limited to Utah, Idaho, and it was sold to other companies, making it a very successful product. So successful was the loader, it led to the creation of a precision beet planter for the newly developed segmented beet seed. After considerable testing, a complete potato harvester was developed. Unique features are that it digs potatoes, cleans off soil, and provides for sorting and grading, all in one field operation. A later version loaded potatoes onto conveyors and into trailers or trucks where they are hauled in bulk to a central station for washing, grading, and sacking. This extremely efficient and labor-saving implement found a widespread market. Land shapers came in a variety of sizes, from 40 to 120 feet in length, especially designed to prepare new land for cultivation and irrigation. The shaper leveled and smoothed out the ground, providing a gentle slope for irrigation. The Lindeman Plant Troll Transplanter correctly handled thousands of plants in a single day. It also handled any type of plant exactly as that particular plant should be transplanted, as well as to provide for the positive application of correct amounts of water or liquid fertilizer in the same operation. There was a rapid sizer for the all-important job of sorting apples. A variety of sizes and models of orchard sprayers were manufactured over the years. Its dual wheels were particularly well suited to rugged orchard terrain. Some models were outfitted with tracks as well. One model included a tower, which could reach a greater area. The tower could be laid over for transport. Similarly, a line of dual-wheeled orchard trailers were built. Some also came with tracks. Some had couplers to pull a second trailer. Once a high-volume item, the brush rake was used to clear cuttings from orchards and placed in piles to burn. A scant few are used in smaller orchards today. There was the two-point hitch. Shown also is the quick coupler for the two-point hitch. And the rotary tillers, which were used to till soil and form planting beds for a variety of crops, such as potatoes, mint, and cotton. It also served to mulch thick wheat stubble after harvest. Powered by the tractor's power takeoff, its flexibility put it in markets throughout the U.S. But the Lindeman B.O. crawler, with its classic lines and legend, will always be the namesake to draw widespread attention. Some crawlers were outfitted with rear fender guards, others with full guards. Approximately 2,700 B.O. crawlers were made by Lindeman for the John Deere Company. Although there may be no way of telling how many there are still in existence today, it is known that some are still in use. Others have made their way into the hands of collectors and may be found in various stages of restoration. And Lindeman crawlers can be found at nearly any one of numerous antique tractor shows each year. Paul Cook of Yakima is probably the most avid collector of Lindeman crawlers in the country. He has 9 of the machines, most of which have now been beautifully restored by his own careful hands.
This tractor's from Turlock, California, and I'm telling you. Well, here's the one that you said was in bad shape. Yeah, twice. First off, I had to find this whole assembly because it was wrecked.
It was all worn out, chewed up, or
So I found this assembly in Wenatchee, yeah. Put new parts in and put it on, and something was wrong. This wouldn't turn, And come to find out, one of the bolts that I'd used to bolt this primary part on went through and pushed the gear that runs here.
Oh, for
Must have
God's
pushed
sake.
it that far.
Oh, for God's sake, you didn't wreck hell out of it.
No, I took it all off again, used the crane, got it all off, and by golly, took the bolt out and that gear
Oh, I'll be darned.
come back practically all the way. But this we had to put new valves, new tubes in the head, and this. But fortunately, the tracks were in good shape, so it's a darn
I
good.
thought this seat was too high. It is adjustable.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Charlie's got them all clear up. And you set clear up here, but for orchard work, you put it down. You
Yeah.
see this slot?
And I've slid the seats forward on most of them,
Yeah.
so I can walk
Get it in
between
here,
them.
yeah. That's another thing that made it move it on.
This one happens to be from Omak, Washington. The family had it for years, and my son, who was a school teacher up there, saw my ad and offered to sell it. It's a pretty good tractor. However, we had to do quite a bit of work on it.
But it's in good running shape.
Very good running shape. New track, pins and bushings. And other than that, why, I got along pretty good with it.
5 decades after the BO went into production, Jesse Lindeman talks about the tractor bearing his name.
I made all the patterns for the dies to form these. We bought a big bulldozer, which is a big horizontal press that comes together like this to form these, the fenders, and part of the track frame deal down here, this piece here. And then we had our own foundry where we cast our own idlers, track rowers, and the rear sprockets. And then, of course, we made all the seat area, and we made these levers, and we made everything but just the bare motor and transmission that came from John Deere. We have a picture, I think. I know we have a picture, if I can find it, where there are about 45 of the chassis came in at one time from John Deere, parked up north of our plant. We were building 2 to 3 a day, about last. And all the records are gone when John Deere bought the plant, and then when they closed it, all the records we have of the number we built. My brother felt we had built 2,700. I thought it was 1,700, and I think probably someplace between the two of them lies the truth. So we built quite a few of them. At one time, there were 350 something, not just in the Yakima Valley at all, because the orchards and the hops, it just fit everything beautifully.
So much traction in a small package was the key to its success.
Well, because of it's so low and easy to get around and difficult place to go down the row. The operator was sitting down where he could see where he's going. It just fit everything, particularly the orchard. And it would go up the hills where the wheel tractors couldn't, and at that time without rubber on it. Later on, when the rubber tires became prevalent, why the use of these slowly went out of the picture.
Jesse pointed out that the bright yellow Lindeman name is a creation of collectors. From the factory, they came out in the standard green. Paul Cook starts it up. The clutch was hand-operated. A small pulley brake was applied by pulling the clutch lever back and out of engagement. The 2x2 transmission could also provide for power takeoff. Steering was accomplished by use of the clutches, which released power to the inside track. There was no differential. If declutching failed to make the tractor turn, then a pull on the steering clutch lever would apply a steering brake, thus forcing the tractor to turn. This method became standard on future crawlers. It's low profile, just over 4 feet tall, and its low seat were conducive to working around and under orchard trees. Underneath, it had a ground clearance of 9 inches. Its 2-cylinder, 4-cycle engine had a top power rating between 15 and 20 horsepower and ran at 1,100 to 1,150 RPMs. At 175 cubic inches, its bore was 4.5 inches with a stroke of 5.5 inches. The BO's crankshaft was crosswise to the tractor itself. Rounded track pads, which came in 10-inch, 12-inch, or 14 inches, prevented unnecessary loss of topsoil and soil compaction. Its track gauge varied from 43 inches to 70 inches and was adjustable by changing its crossbars. It bears repeating that the combination of power and traction made it ideal for steep slopes, especially when pulling a sprayer or loaded trailer. Just over 7 feet long, the BO weighed in at 4,400 pounds. Jesse Lindeman was the eldest of 4 brothers who got involved in the making of farm equipment. He alone survives to this day. He now operates the Lindex Company, where a son, Bruce Lindeman, works as well. Jesse arrives in his office daily, where the latest generation of Lindeman equipment is manufactured. Among his latest creations is a 3-point hitch designed for Caterpillar and, of course, John Deere tractors. This product has found markets worldwide, even exceeding domestic sales. For 70 years, the Lindeman name has been synonymous with innovative farm equipment, helping agriculture progress in the 20th century. We see that the Lindeman story continues to this day. Equipment bearing the Lindeman name will see agriculture well into the next century.